Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, we've got Dieter Kurtenbach on, and we are going to discuss just, I guess, Australian football, Essendon, Carlton stuff. Like, that's really it. Like, it's not like there's an NBA season rolling around soon. It's not like there's, anything else going on in October in the sports world. So let's just talk Australian football offseason. How's it going?
Pretty good, though. Not so good now that I have found out I'm no longer a good friend of the pod. I look forward to the good friend of the pod introduction. I didn't get it today. Did I do something to hurt you? I mean, I'm sorry if I did. I really didn't mean to.
Oh, my God. Do we have to restart? Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. Good friend of the program, Dieter Kurtenbach, is on from the San Jose Mercury News. I'm so sorry for offending you.
Your check's in the mail. Don't worry about it.
Okay. We're not really going to talk about Australian football, though. Shout out Dylan Shield for signing with Essendon. We're going to talk about...
Carlton made a trade today. Hold on. I have this.
They got Mitch McGovern.
Yeah, they did. They got Mitch McGovern, and I'm feeling good about the trade. I think Carlton's back. I mean, they got
Alex Fasolo. I can reel all this off. Like, seriously, I'm at the stage now of my Australian football fandom where, I probably pay more close attention to Australian football, like trades and stuff this time of year, than any sport other than basketball. Like, for the next, 8 days. Yeah. I am 100% locked in.
Yeah, I thought that I had a superior knowledge to most Americans, and I probably do. But then we started going back and forth a little bit on Twitter yesterday with someone who clearly knew way more than me, because I'm pretty sure they were Australian. And you started rattling off names, and I'm like, I got to bow out here. Like,
I'm at the stage where
step you were 10 beyond.
Like, I can tell you that, Dylan Shield, 35% of his possessions are contested possessions, and I'm a little bit worried about, if that's exactly what Essendon needs. I am so far into the weeds on this. I am as into the weeds on this as I am with, the NBA. It's pretty bad.
Well, it's always good to have something to pivot out of. I mean, this NBA thing isn't going to last forever, and Lord knows Aussie rules football is going to take over the world here soon enough. So you're covered on all bases.
It's a way for me to be a fan again. With basketball.
Yeah, that's fair.
Look, I love basketball. I'm a huge fan of the game, but I don't have a team that I support, right? I know too many people that work around the NBA now. I know too many people that work in colleges. To be honest, rooting for Ohio State right now is not particularly fun, despite the fact that they're very good. So, finding Essendon and finding a team that I can really enjoy has been It's been great. I have thoroughly jumped in.
This is me with Liverpool, and why my relationship is constantly on the fritz, because I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning yelling at my TV for a team that I've never been to their stadium for them to score a goal in the Premier League. So I get it 100%. It's just interesting because Aussie rules football is on it ungodly hours of the night, especially for you East Coasters.
But that's the thing, though. For my schedule of my life, I've tried the Liverpool thing. Look, it's sort of root for Liverpool. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some colossal fan. But look, if there's a Liverpool game on, I will watch it. But Australian rules football, you can watch it at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. You can watch it at sometimes 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. Look, there are games that you miss, and you have to watch them the next morning. But at the same time,
you gotta catch up on that stuff, Sam. You can't let that stuff slide.
To me, it's just a little bit better. And plus, I have been to their stadium. I've been to see 5 or 6 Essendon games at the stage. Yeah. I've gone to minor league Essendon games. I cannot emphasize enough how in the weeds I am on this.
It's great. No, it's fantastic. I'll give you a little bit of ribbing every now and again, but if you haven't watched Aussie rules football, it is outrageously entertaining.
Yes.
I got into Carlton because we were going through a rough patch back in the day, and I was up pretty much all night, all the time. And Friday, Saturday night, 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm in Florida, that was something to keep me company, and I got really into it. So I can see how easy it is to get hooked. It's just a commitment that I don't have in my schedule. I'm glad you made time, though. And I'm glad that if I have any questions, I got a guy to go to.
Yeah, and like, look, I can kind of tie this back to American football now too, and we'll get back into American sports. But like, the thing that I always,
continent, baby.
Yeah, the thing that I always tell people too is if these dudes can figure out how to tackle people without a helmet on, without pads on, and without like destroying their brains long term as NFL players do, NFL players can figure it out. Like we can do this. It's just a matter of teaching players how to do it and penalizing the right things.
Don't make me go into my diatribical sermon about how hard plastic is ruining contact sports, because I think that the pads cause more harm than good, and I'm going to stop there before I get very preachy.
I think it's helmets more than plastic. Like it's just
the hard plastic across the board, particularly in hockey, where you think about the shoulder to the jaw stuff. Like shoulder to the jaw, if that's bone against bone or flesh against flesh, yeah, it's going to hurt. Don't get me wrong, but the shoulder's going to take just as much of the brunt as the jaw. But when you have hard plastic armor, it creates an aura of invincibility, and beyond that, it's tougher to take a hit from hard plastic, a shell, than it is from just flesh. And so now you look at football, you look at hockey, two sports that you're just covered in hard plastic. That's a lot of really solid contact every time. Whereas you look at, basketball, rugby, Aussie rules football, basketball, not a full contact sport in the same sense of the other two sports, but those are, if anything, soft pads. And yes, guys break shoulders. It happens a bunch, breaking collarbones, broken jaw, stuff like that. But you don't see the same kind of CTE stuff and concussions and all that jazz. That's it. I could go on for about 5 hours on this stuff. This is a hill I am willing to die on.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But this is an NBA podcast for the most part, so let's jump into that. Bold predictions. They are something that Dieter, if there's been someone that's been more equipped to give bold predictions on things.
Yeah, these are pretty tame predictions considering how bold I usually am.
Yeah, and look, like I tend to think of things rationally and kind of look at things with more of a very, very overly analytically inclined bent. But at the same time, I thought this would be a really good, different podcast topic, because everyone does their, this time of year, their normal preseason content where they're getting to know teams and all that stuff. But I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to just give takes, just fire rapid takes. And I thought
the right man.
Right. So I thought that the best way to do this would be I would come up with 10, you would come up with 10, and we would just roll, go back and forth. I will let you start. I will jump into one. We'll talk about them, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think that before we get going here, the big thing is, yes, these are predictions, but they're speculative in a certain sense. These are the things that, when they do come to pass, and we're not saying they're likely to come to pass, but if they do come to pass, we want to be the guys who called it way out ahead of time. We want to have stock in these certain things happening, so it could pay dividends down the line. So not necessarily like lock it in, go to Vegas, anything like that. But at the same time, I can see every single one of these things, and I'm going through the list that you sent me earlier, every single one of those things happening. I think we're in kind of cahoots in some areas, and some of these are bold. Bold is an understatement. Some of them are going to sound pretty tame. The first one I think will sound pretty tame from me, but man, they get hot and heavy. So bear with us. My first one is that Anthony Davis.
Wait.
Whoa.
No, we're not going with that one first. We want to start.
Okay, you want the hottest of the hot?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's the hottest of the hot, but I want to explain first that if we get 3 out of 10 of these right.
I'm celebrating.
Pretty good about that. 2 out of 10, probably okay. But where I want to start with we both have Jimmy Butler guesses, right?
Okay, let's start.
We both have bold Jimmy Butler predictions. So I'll let you go first on the Jimmy Butler thing.
I think Tom Thibodeau is fired before Jimmy Butler is traded.
Oh boy!
And we went over this the last time I was on the pod in. I just kind of blurted it out, to be honest, saying, is Tom Thibodeau trying to get himself fired? And nothing has progressed in any meaningful way. There's still conversations. Seems like the Heat and the Timberwolves have gone back and forth, but they can't even come close to a deal here. And it sounds to me as if Thibodeau is the holdup. He's not going to give away Jimmy Butler for anything less than $1 on the dollar, and no one in their right mind would give the Timberwolves $1 for Jimmy Butler, despite the fact that he is very much worth $1. So
here's what I'll say to that.
That's the stalemate, and I think that the only thing that you can do to break it is to get rid of Tom Thibodeau so that you can then move forward.
Apparently, Glenn Taylor has been an impediment as well. Like, it's apparently not just Thibodeau.
Shocker.
Right. Because, Mark Stein, we'll talk about The Athletic here as well. The Athletic is one of our terrific sponsors today, and they had a great story up over there. But Mark Stein reported earlier today or maybe late last night that, there was a deal that Miami and Minnesota were negotiating. Adrian Wojnarowski reported over the weekend that it fell through. Stein then gave a little bit of color on it, saying that it was Josh Richardson and a first-round pick for Jimmy Butler. And then there were going to be, it has to be one of Kelly Olynyk, James Johnson, or Dion Waiters involved to make the salaries work in this deal. So my guess is it was probably Dion Waiters. And the reason that this got held up is Minnesota at the end of the day ended up balking, and it was particularly Taylor that did. It was not Tom Thibodeau. He was just about ready. And then earlier today, and this can kind of jump into our advertisement for The Athletic as well, but Jimmy Butler, I guess, has reiterated his desire to be traded, according to Shams Charania and John Krasinski over at my place of employment, The Athletic. So it's hard for me to say exactly who was at fault, but here's what I will say. My bold prediction is that Jimmy Butler goes somewhere else that we either haven't really been talking about or that is not Miami, right?
So what are the teams that we are talking about?
He does not go to the Clippers, Nets, Knicks, Miami, or I believe he had a fifth team that he was interested in as well. The teams that he has mentioned that he would be okay with, or the team that has been directly kind of tied with him within these trade discussions in Miami. He does not go there, is my bold prediction.
Are you willing to take it one step further and declare where he ends up? Because there's a team that I cannot get out of my craw.
I really
think that's not a New Orleans Pelicans pun, but
I think all of New Orleans, Toronto, and Houston make sense.
Yeah, that latter one I can't seem to escape right now. I don't have any useful information here, but there's something in my gut that says he ends up in Houston, and I'm not really sure how that works.
And here's the thing about it all as well. We now have, and other teams out there now have, a bit more of a substantiated report on what the asking price is.
Right. That's huge.
It's Josh Richardson, a good young player who can be a starter, a first round pick, and something else maybe. Maybe it's a little sweetener. And Toronto, I think, can do that pretty easily. Houston, it's tougher. Houston, I think, is going to have problems getting there, but I just kind of never count out Daryl Morey figuring things out creatively.
Right.
And New Orleans, I don't know that they can 100% get there. It's a little bit difficult for them because they don't really have the young pieces that I think match up with a Josh Richardson necessarily.
For sure,
it's not like they can trade Julius Randle yet.
Nope.
They're not trading one of Drew Holiday or Anthony Davis, in my opinion, for a year of Jimmy Butler. So it gets a little bit trickier for them too, just because, I mean, like, is Frank Jackson their best young player?
That just can't be the centerpiece.
Right. So I think that they will probably struggle with it as well, which makes this all kind of leading back to Toronto a little bit to me.
Interesting.
Toronto
certainly not a team that was on the list. The list was 3 teams, by the way, according to Woj: the Nets, the Clippers, and the Knicks. So the Heat are already sort of on the periphery, though you could argue based on all the conversations they're now front and center. So part of this conversation.
And look, this is one of those cases I do not have inside information on. Toronto is even considered this. But if you're Toronto and you can get a season where you have Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka,
that seems pretty good to me.
And then you still have Fred VanVleet off the bench. You still have, someone of the Wright, Siakam, and Anunoby group. Yeah. Are you willing to trade 2 of those guys to Minnesota to get Jimmy Butler?
It's tricky because we have talked about how we enjoyed Toronto's sort of all-in, because it wasn't really that much of an all-in as much as people made it out to be, that because they still had those young guys on the bench that could develop into solid role players, and that they wouldn't fall back massively. I mean, they wouldn't be a title contender anymore if they lose Kawhi, but they'd still be a fringe playoff team, which is important in a market like Toronto. That would be a legitimate all the way in.
Is it Norman Powell, DeLon Wright, and like a sweetener or something? Like something like that? I don't
know if that gets the job done. I mean, can it? I mean, if that's all you have to give up, and listen, I like those guys.
Like Norman Powell,
there's
DeLon
a
Wright,
lot more
first?
Teams that need to get in on this.
Powell, DeLon Wright, Danny Green in a first.
Man, that it doesn't do it. It doesn't do it for me. I mean, not
does Josh
when you compare it to what
for you?
Yeah, I think Josh Richardson's a good player. I understand that he's not exactly cost effective anymore, but like you can see upside in that. I have a hard time. I would want OG in any deal.
Like, look, I really, really like Josh Richardson. I think he's great. I think he is definitely like a starting NBA caliber player.
For sure.
But like, there's a reason that him and Norman Powell got the same contract last year. Right?
No, you're right.
And Norman took a small step back and Josh took a small step forward, right? Look, I'm not saying that Josh is like an equal talent with Norman Powell, but like Norman Powell was like a borderline starting quality player on a 50-win Toronto team for a couple of years.
I get that. But with Josh Richardson, you can, I don't know, it just feels like there's more upside with him, if I'm being honest. This is not, some incredible. I think it's, listen, Josh Richardson is the centerpiece of the trade, wasn't good enough to get a trade done. So it's going to have to be a little better than that. Yeah. I think you're probably, that was actually something that I did consider putting down on my own list, that he doesn't go to one of those teams. And the Rockets was there. I think that you make some good points with Toronto, though, again, if I'm the Timberwolves and now we have other teams involved and we have a more robust market for Jimmy Butler, I'm going for better players because you got to up the bids. The Heat are operating right now with, I don't think anyone else has made a viable offer. I haven't heard of another viable offer, even just, through hearsay. So I don't know, but I think Tibbs is gone before Butler is, just because of the logjam and the holdup and the logistical nightmare that this thing has become. You think that this market's going to get more robust? Perhaps those are conflicting ideas, but it only shows how crazy the situation in Minnesota is.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to judge right now who exactly can get in play here and who can't. Is another interesting one potentially. Could Oklahoma City get involved?
Yeah, I was thinking that as you were going. I mean, if the price is sort of what's been laid out here, I mean, if all you need is a Josh Richardson, a one, and a little bit of a filler to get a deal done, or at least get to the table and have a conversation about the deal, yeah, Oklahoma City can absolutely get involved. What would that package look like from your perspective?
Is it Andre Robertson, Terrence Ferguson, and
do they have their first?
Tim Luwawu-Cabarrot, and then you throw in a first, it's Oaken first, just because you're going to have to, just like Miami is. I have no idea what pick Miami even has on the table right now, because they don't very have a lot clean. Of picks. Yeah, their cupboard is bare in terms of first rounders. So
I think they're just making one up. Please don't check Real GM.
But is it Andre Robertson, Terrence Ferguson, and Luwawu-Cabarrot on a first or something like that? That's a worse deal, I think, than Miami's. But it depends on Miami coming back to the table too.
Totally. And ultimately, I think Jimmy Butler would fit in really well with the Oklahoma City roster that's in play. And given Robertson's injury, that'd certainly be an upgrade. Now, that said, Oklahoma City's already kind of got lightning in a bottle once when they, did a similar deal like this last year, got Paul George, and then got him to re-sign. I'm not certain. In fact, I would bet pretty heavily against Jimmy Butler re-signing in Oklahoma City. It seems to me as if, just based on the fact that he has the Nets and Knicks on his list, that he wants to be in a bigger market than Oklahoma City. But, maybe I'm crazy.
Okay, so here's my last crazy one.
I love it. Let's go.
Washington. Austin Rivers, Kelly Oubre, and Troy Brown.
I am not high on Oubre, so I'm going to say that's probably not enough. But I certainly am I'm on the far pessimistic end of the bell curve when it comes to Kelly Oubre.
Yes. So like you're talking, you get rid of Austin. He's on a 1-year contract, so that's an expiring deal. It saves Minnesota money because a lot of the deals we've said so far actually add to Minnesota's cap sheet, and they're only like $1.5 million away from the luxury tax. So I would imagine they probably want to stay
Taylor
away from
would never.
that. Yeah, like I would imagine they want to stay away from that as much as they can.
Yeah, especially if you're going to get worse on the court, you'd preferably not like to have to pay a goddamn luxury tax.
Right. So this deal actually saves them $2 million, takes them further from the luxury tax. They get Kelly Oubre, they get Troy Brown, add a first round pick in. That's not a disaster.
That's a pretty good deal. That might be the best one you've suggested yet.
Let's go wild. Let's get Jimmy Butler. Let's have all chaos team. John Wall, Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is like not chaos. I shouldn't say that, but like
no, Bradley Beal feels very outsized in this whole thing. But you thought the Gilbert Arenas era Wizards were chaos, and I guess they were, but a different kind of chaos. This is like some elite level passive aggressive bullshit chaos, and I think I might have to move to Washington if that goes down.
Oh my god! But the key here is that
no one knows what's going on.
As John Krasinski and Shams said today, there have been mixed messages along the way from the Wolves front office as to who will make the final decision.
No shit. No. There's a big difference, guys. And listen, they do a great job. And John's been all over this. And
John has destroyed the story, and I think his brain is breaking. And I'm so sorry for it.
But mixed messages is a very nice way of saying this organization really fucked up. And they gave Tibbs full control, and now they wish that they didn't, and they're trying to take it back in real time. That's what mixed messages are, because Tom Thibodeau's like, I have a contract that says I can do whatever I want. And ownership is like, I really wish we didn't give you that contract. That's the mixed message. They're on the same page. The two parties just don't like it the same amount.
So we've beaten the Jimmy Butler horse to death yet again on this podcast because it's the funniest story in the world to me. TheAthletic.com/game theory. Go there. As we mentioned, great reporting over there. I'm going to have draft stuff going up very soon over at The Athletic. We're kind of doing a bigger rollout this year than what we did last year. So I'm in the middle of doing just a ton of like crazy preseason pre-draft work. So go to TheAthletic.com/game theory. You will get 30% off of a first-year subscription. Look, The Athletic's the subscription-based publisher of smarter sports coverage for dire sports fans, die-hard sports fans as well. Those in dire need of coverage as well. Its model is simple: no ads, no pop-ups, no autoplay.
I'm dying. Videos. I need no pop-ups.
Instead, readers subscribe for authentic, in-depth coverage written by journalists like John Krasinski who know the team inside and out. Coverage goes beyond game recaps and trade speculation to provide smarter analysis and a deeper perspective about teams and the league. No shit, man. Subscribers have access to local and national content. You don't just get John with the Timberwolves. You get Shams, you get me, you get Ken Rosenthal. I'm very much
one of those things is not like the other.
I know. Subscribe and be a part of the future of sports journalism. TheAthletic.com/game theory for 30% off of that first year subscription. The second bold opinion from both of us. We both have what we are calling a bold MVP pick. So I will let you go first.
Yeah, I have Anthony Davis winning the most valuable player award. I guess there's no cool name for it. I wish we had like cool names like the NHL has for the awards.
Definitely an award.
It's Anthony Davis post Boogie's injury, so post All-Star game, averaged 29 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 3.5 blocks, 2 steals on 52% shooting. 52% shooting.
It's pretty good.
It was pretty goddamn good. And that 29 was, of course, coming on 22 field goal attempts. So that went up when Boogie went out, unsurprisingly. But we saw before he was the fulcrum and was playing the 5 pretty much consistently. In fact, he only played the 5 from there on out. Him shooting around 54, 55%, and even knocking down 3. I think that Anthony Davis is going to be on a good Pelicans team. We'll get into that a little bit later. I think he's going to go for 32, 11, 3, 3, and 2 on 54% shooting, making 1 out of every 3 3-pointers this year, while being the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year.
I would not say he's the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year.
I know,
but
Gobert, but like Anthony Davis is going to be in. Listen, it's a narrative-based award. It's a narrative-based award, and Anthony Davis is going to have a lot of attention around him this year because of his pending free agency and because he could be the guy who goes to the Lakers and LeBron and all that stuff. Anthony Davis overload this year, and he's going to have the best year of his career on a team that is going to surprise, in my opinion, that. The numbers that he put up last year were MVP worthy. He's going to do a little bit better this year. The narrative is going to come together. I think he wins Defensive Player of the Year on top of it. I think this is one of the great seasons in NBA history for Mr. Anthony Davis, your league MVP.
I'm here for that. That's a really good pick.
It doesn't feel that bold. It doesn't feel that bold.
But I do think that like any non-LeBron, non-Kevin Durant, like / Warriors / Harden, Westbrook MVP pick is. I get that. Like, there's a boldness factor to it.
I feel like picking LeBron is a bold-ass pick, considering where the Lakers are. But I get it. I understand where you're coming from.
So, like, Anthony Davis finished 3rd last year. The guy I'm taking finished 6th. It's Giannis. I'm picking Giannis to win MVP. He averaged 27 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal and a half, and a block and a half a game. That is just...
He's pretty good.
Beyond... bananas to me that he is turned into this just world-wrecking monster. The reason that I'm going with Giannis is the Mike Budenholzer factor.
Totally.
You saw what Giannis was dealing with last year. He dealt with Jason Kidd, who, I think fostered his development.
Budenholzer?
He fostered his development as a person and as a player, but didn't necessarily put him in the right rotational in game situations to kind of really nail it from a production perspective. Joe Prunty, I think the less that's said about Joe Prunty, the better.
You know what? Joe Prunty did as good of a job as Jason Kidd. That's not to say much.
I don't know if that's actually true, but
I didn't feel like he totally.
He's bad.
They didn't get good coaching all of last year.
Yes. So now they're getting Mike Budenholzer, who I consider to be a top 10 coach in the NBA, particularly in terms of the way that he runs offense. The key here, also, Milwaukee has flooded Giannis this year with all sorts of shooting. They went out and signed Ersan Ilyasova, went out and signed Brook Lopez. You hope that Thon Maker goes up and makes a leap. Eric Bledsoe, maybe with an extra year of confidence in this scheme, with an offseason to learn it, can make another leap. Mike Budenholzer has experience with guards like him, such as Dennis Schroeder. So I am a fan of the situation around Giannis. I think that Giannis is going to be actualized and put in position to where he can actually increase the numbers that he put up last year that were video game numbers that should not be possible. And I think that they win pretty darn close to 50 games and end up as a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. I'm going Giannis for MVP.
I love it. I can't disagree with anything you said, even though on our win total over-under podcast, I was kind of skeptical about the Bucks and said basically I don't know if Giannis has an extra gear. He might already be in 6th gear, which is fantastic. And if he can stay at this, he'll be in the Hall of Fame and win a bunch of awards. Like, no issues. But I'm just saying, like, maybe we've reached the top of his development. I watched some preseason Bucks basketball. You're absolutely right about Mike Budenholzer. I really wish that I had taken the over on their win total. And if Giannis wasn't such a sexy pick for MVP right now, and sometimes sexy is used as sort of a pejorative term, in this case, it is both the flavor of the month and the right flavor to be picking. I would have. Listen, I'm definitely not betting against Giannis to win MVP. Yeah. I think that he's probably. I would certainly take him over LeBron. I'd take him over Durant. I'd take him over Harden. I'm not taking him over Davis, but I can probably get better odds on Davis. It's Giannis is going to be really good this year. The Bucks have a chance to be really good this year. I'm really excited to watch them all year.
Give me your next bold prediction.
Here's a big fat bold one. And it's going to sound ridiculous that I think it's a big fat bold one, but hear me out. I think Stephen Curry finishes second in MVP voting this year, and I think there's a
pitch me.
the Warriors have won 82% of the games that Stephen Curry has played in over the last few years, which is an astronomically high number. He had a lot of bad injury luck last year. When he played, he was, of course, fantastic, as per usual. The Warriors are trying to integrate younger players. Having Stephen Curry out on the court is the fastest manner in which to integrate younger players into the Warriors system. I think that he plays 75 games this year, with only a couple of games where, he sits out because it's a back-to-back, circumstances like that. That's the modern NBA. I think he puts up monster numbers, not too dissimilar to his last MVP campaign. I think the Warriors are the number one seed in the Western Conference, almost by accident. And maybe a little bit of this is pessimistic thinking towards injury and the weight that some players are going to have to carry for their teams this year. I think Stephen Curry just sort of ho-hums his way into a second-place finish, and some of that might have to do with Kevin Durant, maybe getting injury luck going his way. It seems like they kind of alternate years in Golden State, and this is a Steph Curry year as opposed to a Kevin Durant year. And, it's kind of out there, but I also feel like we don't talk about Steph Curry enough, which is crazy to me. I mean, obviously we do in the Bay Area and all that, but in the national conversation, it seems as if we've kind of forgotten about him, and I don't think he takes too kindly to that.
I very strongly agree with that. I don't think we talk about Stephen Curry enough. When Stephen Curry was on the floor last season,
run that number by me.
Basically did the same exact thing that he did in 2016 when he won MVP. 67
unanimously.
67.5 true shooting percentage last season. That is his career high. 29.7 points per 36 minutes. He averaged 31.7 in 2016. So right in line there, was right in line in terms of assists. Basically did every single thing the same as what he did in 2016. He just got hurt and only played 50 games. We really don't talk enough about how good Stephen Curry is. He was all NBA last year, despite only playing 50 games. Like, he played a third of the season and was all NBA.
I'm telling you, I mean, I think that's where it is. I think you get a 75 game sample size of that. It's impossible to say. Also, given the fact that the Warriors are going to be wildly successful this year, Kevin Durant's going to take away votes. But if Kevin Durant doesn't get in a full season, and I'm not saying one way or another, I mean, I'm certainly not rooting for anybody in the NBA to get injured, but stuff happens, and maybe this is just, it's entirely a gut feel. But I think Curry has a monster year, and it's very clear that he's the man on the team this year. Playoffs, obviously, everything changes, but for the regular season, I think Steph Curry is going to be the man for the Warriors, and he comes in second.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I think that's a really interesting pick,
bold.
To be
honest.
It's
bold. I don't think it's good. This is the one I feel least confident about, even though I feel like it's really well based. Because just so much other crap has to happen around it. I think he's going to have a monster year. You could take that one to the bank. Everything else, maybe it falls this way, maybe it doesn't. But Stephen Curry has monster years, and exactly a bold proclamation, so I had to add a little sauce to it.
Sure. My next one here is going to be Harry Giles finishes in the top 5 of Rookie of the Year voting.
Please continue.
Went 20th overall in the 2017 draft. Obviously didn't play at all last season. If you've been watching the Kings at all during preseason...
I have, sadly.
I'm sorry for you, first and foremost. Yeah. But the good news is that you've gotten to see Harry Giles really be very good. Mm-hmm. He's scored over 14 points in each game so far, averaging 15.3 points, 6.3 rebounds, 2 assists a game. Generally looks pretty comfortable from the outside, knocking down threes. Whether or not Dave Yeager excises that from his game, we'll see.
Big question.
He's been playing in some very strange lineups. We will just say that. The Kings have... we should take a minute. I did not know
he was a shooting guard. Let's put it that way.
We should take a minute and talk about one of the lineups that the Kings ran out in Phoenix, or I can't remember if it was in Phoenix or Sacramento, during their first preseason game. They ran out Frank Mason, Harry Giles, Skal Labissiere, Marvin Bagley, and Willie Cauley-Stein at the same time.
I believe I referred to that when I saw the tweet come across my timeline as Dave Yeager has entered his acid phase.
I don't know how that lineup works.
I should look up this. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, but I actually want to see what the stats were with that 5-man on the court.
The problem is that NBA.com doesn't track preseason stuff. So we actually don't know.
I'm going to have to hand chart it then.
Yeah, it's an interesting time in Sacramento, but I think Harry Giles is a really good
flicking
one.
Us all off.
It really could. It could be Dave Yeager flicking off Lottie.
How is that not an immediately fireable offense?
Yeah, I mean, look.
Honestly, how is
they
that
had
not a
Yogi
fireable
Ferrell,
offense?
De'Aaron Fox, and Frank Mason. All three of those guys were healthy that night. Buddy Hield, Ben McLemore, and Justin Jackson. They had 6 perimeter guys that they could have on the floor.
Which would have been worse.
I don't even think Bogey played that night. I don't think Shumpert played that night. So maybe that's the reason that it happened. But yeah, look.
Is it worse playing 5 centers or having Yogi Ferrell as your 2 guard?
Hey, Yogi.
I get it. But
big Yogi Ferrell guy.
I'm glad he's in the league. He certainly deserves to be in the league. But he's tiny.
15% assist rate for Harry Giles in the preseason. He threw a just disgusting behind the back pass to Marvin Bagley for an awesome dunk in their last preseason game. I am a relatively big fan of Harry Giles. I had him at number 1 going into the 2017 draft season. And, you hear great things about him as a kid, and I think everyone around the NBA is rooting for him because his talent was genuinely special a few years ago.
For sure.
And, just a slew of knee injuries have taken it away. In some ways, he was a very different player then than he is now. He relied a little bit more on athleticism and just, playing hard and being aggressive all the time. That latter part of his game it's still there, but he's kind of rounded out the skill set. And if the athleticism continues to return, I really like him. I really think he's going to be a starting caliber center in the NBA. And, we can talk about the fact that the emergence of Harry Giles creates logjam questions for Sacramento long-term, given the fact that they already have Marvin Bagley, and I don't really think those two will work well together on the floor unless they both start to knock down shots. But, at the end of the day, I really like Harry Giles to be the rookie that stands out in Sacramento this year.
I love that, and I think the Kings have certainly been pushing that narrative out for a while now. I mean, they really like Harry Giles up in Sacramento. There's, as you said, what's not to like about the guy. He's a feel-good story. He's a great kid. I hope you're right. I think 5 is aggressive, but again, this is bold predictions. And I hope you're right. That'd be great. That'd be great for Harry Giles to get back on track, because let's not forget what this kid's ceiling looked like a couple of years ago.
Go ahead and give me your, what are we on, 4? I think you're going for 4.
Yeah. The Celtics have the best record in the NBA at the end of the regular season.
Okay, so I'll give my 4th as well, because it relates to the Celtics. Mine is that Jayson Tatum makes the All-Star team. So
they go hand in hand.
I think they go hand in hand.
In fact, when you said that, I go, of course he makes the All-Star team. What the hell are you talking about? So explain to me not so much why Jayson Tatum makes the All-Star game, but why that's so bold.
I mean, you look around the Eastern Conference, the Eastern Conference gets Kawhi in this year, which is a very real impediment to a wing making the team. If they get Jimmy Butler in, that's another real impediment to a wing making the team. Bradley Beal still exists. Victor Oladipo still exists. Giannis still exists. Chris Middleton, in my opinion, is knocking on the door of an all-star team. Honestly, I consider just doing Chris Middleton for this spot instead, because I really, really like him as well, but I didn't want to do 2 Bucks related ones. No, there actually are a lot of really, really good, perimeter based, 2, 3, 4s that I think are going to be in line for this team. Ben Simmons is another one, obviously. And, you can even make a case for, Jason's teammate, Jaylen Brown in Boston as well. So
that's a stretch, but
maybe a little bit, but there are going to be a lot of guys. That would have been bold.
I would have liked that one.
There are going to be a lot of guys competing for this spot, and Jayson Tatum is a second-year player that averaged 13.9 points per game last season.
You're right. You're right about that. That is the it's just so easy to grab on to how good he was in the playoffs and just presume like, oh, that's Jayson Tatum, and it has always been Jayson Tatum, and that's what he will be forever and ever, and he will only get better from this. It's just really easy to get optimistic about Jayson considering those Eastern Conference Finals, but like I don't think Kevin Love's going to be an all-star this year. Forgive me, I like Kevin Love, but I just don't think that the market's going to be there. Kristaps or Kemba, I guess Kemba took Kristaps' spot. I don't really see that coming to fruition.
Blake will be there this year as well.
Will he, though?
I mean, look, Blake Griffin last year, while he was with the Pistons, averaged like 27 and 6. If he does that, he makes the All-Star team.
Yeah, but like Andre Drummond doesn't then. Like the Pistons ain't getting 2.
Probably not, no. Andre didn't make it last year, did he?
Yeah, he's on this team. I'm looking at him right now.
Holy crap. He did make the All-Star team last year. So yeah,
there's
one of
your
the Pistons,
spot.
I guess. Yeah.
Goran Dragic is not making the All-Star team.
Don't you speak ill of my Slovenian brother.
Listen, I like Goran Dragic, but 1, he started the season injured. 2, he plays for the Heat, who I think are going to regress unless they get Jimmy Butler. And 3, like, I'm pretty sure he was the last guy on the team.
Yeah, it was probably Kemba because he replaced Kristaps.
Right. Who knows? But, like, come on, there's some spots there. Like, and Jayson Tatum, is... Yeah, he's a big deal.
Just wait until I start
days.
throwing out Luka Doncic for the All-Star team.
See, that's what I'm talking about. These are the bold proclamations I was looking for.
I think that one is, even as someone who thinks Luka wins MVP, or
yeah,
not
that
MVP,
would be.
Wins Rookie of the Year. He wins MVP among the rookies.
if he wins MVP, invite me to your new island in the Bahamas where you will live out the rest of your days. Because what are the odds on Luka Doncic MVP right now? Plus 10,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say I bet they're probably 150 to 1, 125 to 1.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Give me why you think Boston will have the best. Anyway, like Jayson Tatum.
Yeah.
We can talk about Jayson Tatum forever.
He's really good scorer. He's really good and is going to be an all-star this year. Let's start with that. We talked about this again on the over-unders, but I think Boston still has something to prove, that they need to sort of convince the league that they are the alpha dogs in the Eastern Conference. That is not an easy thing to prove, so they're going to come out guns blazing. I just feel like this thing is gelling at the right time. You have the development of Tatum, that jump that he was able to make in the playoffs last year. I think Brown has finally figured out his role, and that was a tricky thing because he was a guy with so much talent. You thought, oh, maybe he has superstar potential. I think that we're now tempered off of that enthusiasm, but he's still going to be a really rock-solid player, just not that superstar kind of player, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Having a role and understanding it is probably the first step to really being successful. Getting Gordon Hayward back, kind of important. They're just really deep. They're going to be playing with something to prove, and they're not sort of a fully known commodity yet. So I like to sort of take the optimistic view on how many wins they can get just because of the development of some of the young guys. It just seems to be gelling at the right time. That said, I think that it's probably 61 or 62 wins that gets you the top record in the NBA this year, just because both Houston and Golden State, I would argue, are going to be sort of taking her easy in the regular season. I don't think that there's a third team outside of maybe the Jazz, who I don't know if that's really so much of a push as sort of a backdoor cover, that can really, scare them out of a top 1 or 2 seed, which I don't think either team really gives that much of a shit about. So I think Celtics 62-63 wins, and that's the top record in the NBA at the end of the regular season.
Has anything you've seen from Gordon Hayward in the preseason scared you?
Well, this is the beauty of the preseason. All the good things that you see, you can just say, oh, I knew it, and it's just confirmation bias through and through. And all the bad things, you can just say, oh, it's preseason, it doesn't matter. So,
yes, that's right. It's 100% right.
So, if I'm being really analytical,
if we're being real with it,
it hasn't been great. But preseason basketball until and listen, I still think that the Celtics would have the number 1 seed in the East, honestly, and it'd be a lot tighter. Still think they'd have the number 1 seed in the East if they didn't have Hayward. So, yeah, didn't they do that last year?
Yeah, they did.
So I'm a little scared. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that surprising either. Like I think he'll be rocking and rolling by Christmas, and that's when teams sort of show everybody what they got.
Yeah, I mean, like Marcus Morris is just straight up chucking in the preseason right now. Gordon's very clearly just like kind of trying to ease back in. This team is incredibly deep. They fit in a really, really competent manner. Everything looks great. Like Walter Lemon has played 4 games so far. I would not would not be super worried about what the Celtics look like in the preseason. Give me bold prediction number 5.
I think that the Memphis Grizzlies will be closer to having home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs than they will be to having a lottery pick.
Okay.
So I am both picking the Memphis Grizzlies to make the playoffs, and I'm picking them to have like the 6th seed.
Right, 6 seed or better for Memphis.
Right, and that's a big deal. They were in the 20s last year. They won like 22 games last year. But you get Marcus Gasol back, you get Mike Conley healthy. I like a lot of the depth pieces on this team. Last year, they really did a good job of tanking. Here's another bold thing. It's a subtext to this. I think Chandler Parsons looks halfway decent this year. Like, I think Chandler Parsons looks like a respectable NBA player for the first time in a long time.
He's looked solid in preseason.
So, Memphis gets slept on just because it's Memphis. I get that. Fair or not, that's the way things are. But, man, don't sleep. They got that old man game, and they got some young players that I'm really excited by. I think it comes together pretty well. And, the Western Conference is always spoken about as this powerhouse and this, murderer's row. I don't know, man. I think Memphis can play with just about anybody outside of those top 2 teams. And people just presuming they're only going to win 30-something games, I think they're going to be very disappointed when it's all said and done. And I think that they're a bad team to play in the playoffs, too.
So, Memphis, like you said, Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, building blocks there. They went out and acquired Garrett Temple and Kyle Anderson this offseason, both really good additions, in my opinion. Garrett Temple, I think, has looked really solid defensively, has looked like a really competent piece so far in the preseason. JaMychal Green is still a guy that I think not enough people talk about as a really like JaMychal player Green in the NBA. They also have a couple X factors here. They have Chandler Parsons, who again I think has looked really good in the preseason for what we've come to expect over the last couple of years from Chandler Parsons. He told Memphis fans in a Players Tribune piece that he's finally healthy for the first time. He feels like his body is, finally back to what it was. And the other guy who's looked unbelievable, in my opinion, in the preseason,
bring it on, baby,
is Jaren Jackson.
I love it.
He's looked
so good.
Awesome. He's averaging 13 points a game on 64% shooting, 50% from 3. The big thing is the rebounding still. Like, he still gets pushed around inside a little bit.
He's lanky as hell, man.
Yeah, but you know what? He has been very, very good so far offensively in the preseason. So
he just has a little something about him, man. Like, you watch him out there and you're like, that guy just knows what he's doing on the court. His defense is still lagging behind. You're totally right that he still gets pushed around, but he's going to get better and better. He might be legitimately, if you really, really like basketball, just there's a lot of time commitment, but just watch Jaren Jackson develop throughout the season. You're going to feel like you have a new child because he is going to get so much better.
Too. He's one of the youngest players in the NBA, first and foremost. Second, his calling card was defense in college. He was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. He was unbelievable, and he knows where to be defensively too right now. It's not an issue of him struggling to adjust to coaching. It's just he's
the speed of the game. It's the speed of the game, and it's going to take a little bit. But you think about and listen, now that they have coaching that understands that you don't necessarily have to have a big hulking center. And listen, Marc Gasol is still a big hulking center to a certain degree, sure. But they're going to be willing to play small ball 5, and that's exactly what he is. And you go against these teams. The modern NBA is having a 4 that can shoot. It's like a power wing. And having a 5 that can dive. Jaren Jackson is perfect. I mean, just absolutely perfect to be a defensive impact player from day one. Maybe it'll take a little bit, but you know what I mean, in the sense that you could not make a prototype for a better defensive player for that kind of a league. And his offense has looked really good.
Yeah, speed of the game, you can see it a little bit with him. He was turnover prone in college. That's still there right now. He's... but
they don't need him to be the dude. I mean, that's the other thing too. He can go along at his own pace. He doesn't have to be you look at some other teams. Doncic has to be somewhat of a man from day one. He doesn't get a lot of opportunity to mess up.
Which, by the way, not going to mess up. But
no, I know, but like I know, or like Ayton. Like I know that the Suns aren't playing for anything, but like Ayton's the centerpiece now. I mean, until Devin Booker comes back, he's sure as shit the centerpiece. And so like he's going to have to learn on the fly, and that's going to be a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and they're going to be kind of exaggerated in both the up and the down because of the weight that's on his shoulders. The entire franchise is on his shoulders in some way. Whereas with the Grizzlies, just go along. It's never going to be too high. It's never going to be too low. He can get sort of that, that detailed coaching that you need to get better in a short period of time. I think by the end of the season, it's going to be somewhat laughable that we would probably were ever talking about him struggling. I think he's going to be a real big impact player this year when it's all said and done.
My fifth prediction is also a very positive one. The Indiana Pacers win at least 53 games this season.
I love it.
That is a 5-win increase on what they won last year, when most people assumed that they drastically overperformed expectations. I have loved everything that I've seen from them in the preseason so far.
Yep.
I loved everything I saw from their offseason last year. Everything about this team screams that they're just going to keep getting better and better and better.
Totally.
I can even give you, like, we can talk about guys like Bojan Bogdanovic and Miles Turner and Tyreek Evans and guys who are like these established players. Domantas Sabonis looks, again, really, really good in the preseason right now. Doug McDermott, established player that they went out and got this offseason. Corey Joseph looks pretty good in the preseason as well. We can keep going down the list on these guys, and that's before...
This is a really good team, America.
Right, and that's before we get to Victor Oladipo being like an unquestioned star in the NBA, in my opinion. It's the guys on the fringes right now in preseason that look really good for them. Edmund Sumner looks awesome. He has
awesome
averaged 11 points a game. He's averaged 11 points a game so far in their 3 preseason games. He's not shooting the ball yet. Like, he's still only taking 1.3 3-point attempts per game. But he just looks like that athletic, hopeful player that they drafted in the second round following a knee injury that took him off of a lot of NBA teams' draft boards. TJ Leaf is a guy that I was not a fan of in the pre-draft process. I love him as a kid.
Yeah.
He is one of the most fun, under 25 players to talk to in the NBA because he's just very, funny kid. He's very smart, very engaging. He's playing 30 minutes a game in the preseason so far and averaging 12 points and 8 rebounds a night while shooting 57% from the field. He looks...
I did not see that coming.
Yeah,
I mean, he has to do it in the regular season, but like seeing him last year, I'm like, I don't know if this was, but...
Right.
And he was hot shit at UCLA. But,
it's exactly how I felt, but he looks good so far this preseason.
Sure does.
It's just the depth of options that they have. They're going to be able to withstand just about anything that befalls them during the season other than a Victor Oladipo injury. And if Miles Turner goes down again.
They might be better situated than most to handle their star going down. I mean,
probably true.
Call it what it is.
Probably true.
Listen, that doesn't mean that they're going to be in the situation that you said they would be in.
But they don't win 53 games without Victor Oladipo.
No, of course not. I wasn't suggesting anything. But they can still make the playoffs without him, I honestly think.
Right. If Miles Turner goes down, they still have Domantas Sabonis. They still have Kyle O'Quinn. They do. You can figure out a way to get to 50 wins without Miles Turner, who is ostensibly the second best player on this team. Maybe Thaddeus Young is, but Thaddeus Young goes down, you have multiple guys who can step up. Bojan Bogdanovic goes down. You have a Doug McDermott. You have even an Edmund Sumner if you want to play smaller, or a Tyreek Evans if you want to play smaller. There are so many options on this team. I am a big, big fan of the Indiana Pacers this season. I did not do this for my bold prediction, but I would probably have them in my Eastern Conference Finals right now. I'll talk about that. I'm going to do a podcast either for later this week or early next week, kind of just giving full on NBA predictions in the traditional manner. We'll talk about that later. I don't know. They're right on the borderline of Eastern Conference Finals for me, though. I think this team is awesome.
I totally agree. And going off of that notion, here's I don't know what number we're at, but here's another bold prediction for y'all.
6.
6? Well, appropriate. I don't think the 76ers have home court advantage in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Okay. Pitch me, because I don't agree, but pitch me.
No, and listen, this is one of the bolder ones, but I think it's Boston, Indiana, Toronto, and the Bucks.
Okay.
In the top 4 seeds. And yes, you could look at a lot of things that the Sixers have done. I'm really not trying to necessarily, beseech the Sixers name. I like a lot of the things that they did this offseason. I think that, getting Wilson Chandler is really good. I think that Markelle Fultz has looked pretty damn solid in the preseason, especially compared to where we were at. They brought back the same guys. I can't disagree with what you said on Simmons.
We haven't gotten to Ben yet, but I'll give you my Ben Simmons prediction.
But sorry, what you talk. Yeah, okay. But you're still relying on Joel Embiid to stay healthy.
Sure.
And I just need to keep seeing it. I need to see something. Listen, Simmons is awesome, but you can kind of devise a defense to slow him down to a certain degree. Like, he will have to start taking a shot at some point, I would have to imagine. And I don't know. I just don't think that fate is on this team's side. It's a gut feeling. And I think that there's a lot of competition. This is a team that, let's not forget, had to go on a pretty damn good run at the end of the season last year against a lot of bad teams. And I think that the Eastern Conference is a lot better. And I think that this team could be a lot better, but on, whatever feelings I got going on, I just don't think that they put it all together in the regular season. That's not to say that they might not be there when it's all said and done in the Eastern Conference Finals, making the NBA Finals, all that. I still think they're absolutely a contender, but I don't think they have home court advantage in the first round for any number of reasons.
Okay, so I don't agree.
Yeah, no, listen.
We'll talk about why here.
Okay.
One of my bold predictions is Ben Simmons makes the All-NBA team after averaging 20 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. The reason that this is a bold prediction is if you look at who has done that in the past, I can give you 4 names. LeBron, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Oscar Robertson.
Are those guys good?
Yeah. And I'm saying that Ben Simmons is going to do it in year 2 of his career.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's something. And listen, it's hard. Clearly, I jumped the gun with it a bit earlier, but hot damn. I mean, who's to say that he couldn't?
So averaged 15.8 points. The points are the one that I'm a little bit worried about.
Okay.
But 8 assists and 8 rebounds a game last year.
Yeah.
I believe that by the midpoint of this year, he's going to be shooting 15-footers when he needs to.
Okay. And that's all he needs. All he needs to do is just force the defense to stay somewhat honest and not totally collapse the paint.
Right. The problem with playing Ben Simmons is that Boston did do a good job of devising a defensive scheme against him because they have so many guys that are not only quick, but they're strong as shit, right? Mm-hmm. They have Marcus Smart, they have Marcus Morris, they have Shimmy Ojale. Al Horford did a pretty good job on him when he was switched on to him last year, even played him occasionally last year. They just have a lot of guys that have Jaylen Brown, unique combination of size and speed and strength.
For sure.
Whereas most NBA teams just can't do that.
No, he just can't handle them.
If you play, if you try and go over him, he's going to beat you to the rim because he's so much quicker. If you try and play under, he's just so quick with his first step and so strong that he's going to power through you because you lose momentum doing it that way. Mm-hmm. So and you let him get downhill. It's a very difficult proposition to develop a defensive scheme, and they only play Boston 4 times a year.
Right. And teams are not going to come up with an entirely new scheme necessarily for one game. I mean, there's just not that much. You kind of just do what you do and see what happens. Playoffs,
the NBA season is too impractical for that.
Let me run some numbers by you real quick on Simmons. I mean, I can understand why the scoring might be of concern, not because he can't necessarily do it, but because his game is pretty unselfish, and defenses, if they have to collapse 2, 3, 4 guys on him, he is willing to make the pass. But post All-Star game last year, 27 games, he was plus 14 in those games, which is just that's a stupid number. 14.5 points per game, just shy of 9 rebounds, just shy of 10 assists. You might be onto something here.
He's a very good basketball player. I know that's a
no
strong
doubt about
opinion,
that.
But
I know, yeah. There's the bold proclamation. That said, I mean, can he do it? Can he do it on his own? If Joel Embiid is not out there, if he does not, and we are hoping, both of us, everyone on the planet Earth probably, save for maybe some mean-hearted Celtics fans, is hoping that Joel Embiid plays all 82 games this year and is fantastic. But if injury befalls him again, can Ben Simmons carry this team for 50-something games, let's say, to a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference?
I would say it's right around there. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. But I think we're both high on the Bucks. We're definitely both high on Indiana. Boston is going to be there. I don't think that's really up for debate. And I don't know where you fall on Toronto, and let's hold off on that. But like, it's not as if the Sixers are just automatically sliding up into the elite of the Eastern Conference here. I mean, they're going to have competition, and they need luck on their side. They can't, they can't just get by on talent alone. Things have to come together for them this year. I thought it came together for them fairly decently last year, particularly at the end of the season. Maybe that's a misguided notion, but I just don't think that things click necessarily for the Celtics or for the Sixers this regular season. Playoffs, different story. What do you got for me?
Making these predictions early in the season is difficult. If we could see into the future, it would be a lot easier, especially if you had simple contacts. Simple Contacts is the most convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of contacts from anywhere in minutes. Instead of heading to your doctor year after year just to renew your prescription for something you wear every day, you can go do it on your own time and on your own terms in just a few minutes. This truly is vision care for the 21st century. How does it work? If you need to renew your prescription, you just take a 5-minute Simple Contacts vision test online, and it'll be reviewed by a licensed doctor. You receive a renewed prescription and reorder your contacts. All you need is current contacts, an internet connection, and 10 feet of space. Even if you're totally out of contacts, they've got an option for you too. Why is this awesome? It is convenient, it's fast, it's reliable, it offers choice, and it saves you money. The vision test is only $20. If you compare that with an appointment without insurance,
you don't want to have to deal with all that crap.
It's going to cost like $200. The contact lens prices are absolutely unbeatable. Standard shipping is free. Best of all, we're offering a promotion to our listeners. Go to simplecontacts.com/gametheory20. That's GAMETHEORY20. You're going to get $20 off of whatever it is you order. I use Simple Contacts. I am a huge fan of Simple Contacts. It is just an absolutely unbelievable service. It's made my life so much easier. I went for a while without using contacts in general, but because Simple Contacts was just as easy as it is to use, I started to actually be able to see things in my life. That
explains a lot of these predictions.
It really does, doesn't it? Go to simplecontacts.com/gametheory20 or enter that gametheory20 code at checkout. simplecontacts.com/gametheory20. Dieter, give me something wild here. I want to have a take. Give me a take.
Okay,
we're on
so
7 for the people. We're on 7.
Because God knows you need to be writing this shit down.
There will be a quiz.
Which of these was the dumbest thing these two said? Now that we're talking about home court advantage, which is apparently something that I'm hell-bent on when it comes to this, I think that the Pelicans, a team that I have seen many say will not make the playoffs, I don't think they're just going to make the playoffs. I think they have home court advantage in the first round, and I think that Alvin Gentry, everyone's favorite coach, is the NBA's coach of the year.
The coach that within our bold predictions last year we fired.
Yeah. Sorry, Alvin.
Oh my God. Give it to me. Give me all of the reasons.
Listen, this is probably a curse on the Pelicans. I'm not going to lie to you. But I just love the way that this team plays. I think that they're going to be extremely aesthetically pleasing. I think on a night-in, night-out basis, they are going to be almost impossible to play with the pace that they're going to be at, and with Anthony Davis just taking it to another level this year, as we already talked about. I think that this team sort of found its groove. It certainly wasn't as talented when you lose a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, but Nikola Mirotic really unlocked a lot of stuff for this team. I love the Julius Randle pickup, even though it's not necessarily the most obvious addition. There are still questions on the wing, don't get me wrong, but Drew Holiday is as underrated as any player in the NBA. I think Davis takes a step up, and more than anything else, I think they're going to be really comfortable with the system that they play. And we talk about, how difficult it is to play in Utah on any given night. Certainly the altitude is a factor there. It's not going to be in New Orleans, which I believe their arena is below sea level, but like, you're just not going to want to play the Pelicans on any given night. They're going to run you off the court, and that matters in the regular season. And in a Western Conference that I'm having kind of a hard time figuring out a clear-cut 4 top teams, why not? Why not the New Orleans Pelicans? I don't know if that translates necessarily into playoff success when you get, a full series and you can really scheme it up game by game and come up with a cohesive game plan for how to slow down Davis and exploit the weaknesses of a team. But night in, night out, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this team wins 55 games. That's a number. They could get that's the absolute ceiling. It's the absolute ceiling. Don't get me wrong, but like, let's just say, 50 is around that range that you need to be at to, get home court advantage. And I think that right now, my top 4 teams when it comes to seeding in the West are going to be the Warriors, the Rockets, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. And I think everyone is kind of on the Jazz bandwagon. They're good, and there's no reason to pick against them at this point. I don't think that would be that much of a bold prediction, but I think the Pelicans are going to be kind of right there in that class. And that might sneak up on some people, but it won't on me.
It's funny that you mentioned the Utah Jazz. You keep doing a great job of just leading into bold predictions.
It's almost as if we prepared.
Which we kind of didn't, but...
We never really do.
Yeah.
So listen, the fact that we did it a little bit and the fact that I know what the hell you're talking about this time, just immediately paying off dividends.
It's shocking, I know. I am going with a Utah Jazz-based prediction. If you made me pick, I would say the Jazz end up as a top 4 seed in the West. But I don't really think that's that bold anymore.
No, we agree on that.
What I did was Donovan Mitchell finishes in the top 7 in scoring in the NBA. Averages over 25 points per game, and makes an all-NBA team in his 2nd season. The reason that is bold, other than obvious, is players to average 25 points a game and make all-NBA within their first 2 seasons. In the last 20 years, it's LeBron and Vince Carter. In the last 33 years, it's those two, Shaq and David Robinson. David Robinson was like 25. When he did it.
Yeah. So is Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell's like 23?
22, 23, yeah. Like,
I'm pretty sure he's
David took off a ton of years
he had to go to the
Admiral
Navy.
Service in the Navy. So,
thank you for your service, David Robinson.
For sure. But we're four players in the last 33 years, and I'm predicting Donovan Mitchell to do it.
He's 22. Damn it.
I
have been harboring a fact that he was like 42 years old.
Look, I've long been a pretty big Donovan Mitchell fan.
You're the leading proponent.
He is very, very good. I did not see what happened last year happening. Just creates shots at will. There's nothing that teams can do to stop it now. The fact that he can finish off of 1 foot after not being able to do so in college is really, really just a testament to how hard he works. He is really just an absolutely incredible worker. And we'll see, where it goes from here. But the guy is just an absolute superstar in my opinion. And if the Jazz are going to be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, which I think that they will be.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, who averaged, I think, 23 points a game from December onward last season.
Going into splits.
Yeah, he's going to be an all-NBA player, I think. It's just straight up real with it.
If you watch the playoffs, it doesn't come across as that bold. But you think about...
just how ridiculous it is historically.
His numbers after the All-Star game were pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. If he can get up to 45% field goal percentage and make just, 1/3 of his threes, he averaged 22, 4, and 4 in the second half of last year and was a plus 16 player. If he just gets a little bit more efficient, and that's usually where improvements are made, first to second year. Yeah, this is pretty sane.
Yeah,
so, it's bold. Don't get me wrong. Like it's asking of something, but given his trajectory and given what we've seen, yeah, I feel pretty comfortable getting behind this one too.
Yeah, let's go wild here. Number 8, we're on. Give me number 8.
I think that Dwight Howard's a borderline all-star for the Washington Wizards this year.
This is easily the dumbest one that you've come up with.
Sorry. Dwight Howard was like kind of good last year.
He was genuinely. He was. I have no problem saying that. Like I kind of think that like the Hornets will miss him a little bit.
I think he could average like 18 and 12 a game for the Washington Wizards. And like, yes, there's a lot of really good players. We went over this earlier, but like those are borderline all-star numbers. I'm not saying he's going to make the team. That would be a step even too far for me. But like, I think he's going to be pretty damn good. I really do. I don't know. I can't believe I wrote it either, but here we are.
16.6 points per game, 12.5 rebounds per game last season in 81 games. Like Dwight Howard was genuinely useful.
He was
for Charlotte
pretty good. He was pretty good. And I think he certainly has a better team around him this time around. Yeah. Now that's not to say that I think the Wizards are going to be any good, because I think there's something going on with John Wall that is gonna boil. There's a whole lot of weird there, but like, I guess maybe
was that an intentional sound effect while like talking about John Wall being bad?
I don't know. This whole thing is so weird. I can't stop laughing. It makes me so uncomfortable. I think that Dwight Howard might be one of the. He might not be a problem. I can't believe it. I don't think he's going to be problematic for the Washington Wizards. I said it.
I mean, as long as he's healthy, he obviously has this like ass injury or whatever.
Yeah, he literally injured his ass, and it was just too easy. It's too easy for everybody. I appreciate the tens of thousands of people on Twitter who made the same joke that Dwight Howard, a notorious pain in the ass, actually injured his ass. It's really good stuff. But
I'm just waiting. I feel certain right now that as we speak at 5:51 West Coast time on Tuesday, October 9th, I can almost guarantee you that Dwight Howard is workshopping a fart joke in conjunction with the fact that he injured his ass. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not a bold proclamation there.
Like there's no question in my mind that that's what he's doing right now. That's what he's spending his time on.
Get your ass healthy, Dwight.
We need Dwight to be there. I think that's a strong one.
Borderline all-star. I mean, first off, this is the beauty of some stuff like this. Borderline all-star really loose
can mean
term.
a lot of things.
Exactly. So I'm going to come out. A-okay. All that has to happen is for him to basically slightly improve on what he did last year, or for the East to just straight up kind of suck, and like for a bunch of guys to like get hamstring injuries and miss 20 games in the first half and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways this can go, but the overarching point that I'm trying to make is of the Wizards' problems, and I think that they are going to have a considerable amount of problems this year, and I don't think Scotty Brooks makes it out of the year alive. I don't think Dwight Howard's going to be part of it. It's weird. I feel weird saying it. I feel weird saying it. I think it's going to be pretty damn good, in fact.
My next one has to do with the team that he's leaving, the Charlotte Hornets.
Okay. I think I know where you're going.
I think that we talk about the Eastern Conference being this conference of madness where nobody knows what's going to happen, right?
True. It's factual. Not even us.
I think that 7 of the 8 teams that made the playoffs last year make the playoffs this year. And the team that makes it instead of the Cleveland Cavaliers is the Charlotte Hornets.
Wait a minute, are you telling me that the Cleveland Cavaliers are not going to make the playoffs this year?
Surprising, I know. My pitch on the Charlotte Hornets. 42-40 expected win-loss last year. They had actually a positive net rating. They just struggled so badly in close games.
Yeah.
I really like Jim Borrego as a coach. Everyone I've talked to around the NBA seems to think he is incredibly sharp, very, very good. I think we're going to get just an FU free agency season from Kemba Walker. Mm-hmm. Cody Zeller is back from injury. He's going to be healthy this year.
Cool.
They dealt with Nicola Batum missing like 20 games, if I remember correctly.
And he didn't even look right when he was playing.
Miles Bridges looks great so far in the preseason.
I feel really good about Miles Bridges. I almost had him on this bold prediction list, but I went with somebody else.
Malik Monk really came on kind of sneakily at the end of last season.
If he can remember his jersey, he can play. Tony
Parker will kind of give them a bit of a steadying force off the bench, which is something they've struggled with over the last couple of years as a point guard.
big.
He'll also really help them get in tune with Jim Borrego's offense. So, look, I think this is a good team. I think that they are going to make the playoffs this year.
But how will they do that without Dwight Howard is the real question.
Fair point.
You're right. It was a ridiculous. I already am thinking about pulling back on it. But I agree with you. And we talked about this on the over-under, but there's a lot of upside potential with the Hornets when it comes to betting this year. I think they're getting slept on left and right, and there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. What's the worst that can happen, honestly, when you're putting your money down with that? So,
well, the worst that happens is Kemba Walker loses. There's
a lot of worst case scenarios, and Kemba Walker might not be on the Charlotte Hornets halfway
in February.
Three quarters of the way through the season. But I mean, if they're in it, they're not going to trade him. I mean, they can't get market value. How about come on. So, it could go wrong, but like I think that they're getting. I mean, do you remember off the top of your head what their Westgate win total is? Something like 38.
No, it was less than that.
Then take it.
Yeah, I will be betting on their over. Actually,
yeah. I mean, this team is going to be 500 or better. That just seems like a no-brainer to me. But it was
35.5 for what it's worth.
Whoa, take it. I do find interest in the 7 out of the 8 playoff teams from last year making it again this year. Which is the team? Obviously, the Cavs fall out, but which is the team that is going to challenge that the most? Which of the 7?
Probably Miami. I think, depending on if they get Jimmy Butler. I think Miami's I think Spoelstra is just so good that they're going to make the playoffs again.
Okay.
If you made me predict what is going to happen,
yeah,
but they're probably the closest.
Okay.
Give me another one.
Yeah, let's stick in the Eastern Conference. I think that the Toronto Raptors represent the East in the NBA Finals and play the Golden State Warriors and win a game in the NBA Finals. I think it's going to take a little bit for this Raptors team to get together and get on the same page. That's a new coach. That's having Kawhi. It's, Kyle Lowry, not necessarily by many accounts being all that thrilled with what's going on. But they made a big, bold move, and I think it works out for them. And Kawhi is, lest we forget, and I think a lot have forgotten, he is a true superstar player who is, I don't know, maybe not inarguably anymore, but a generational wing defender who is also extremely good at offense. This is the kind of guy who he was a Finals MVP. This is the kind of guy that, frankly, Toronto needed. It's just such a big jump, and I think DeMar DeRozan's a really good player, but they're just not in the same class to me. And if Kawhi comes out with something to prove after last year and wants to reestablish himself as one of the 5 best players in the NBA, something he can very easily do. It might take a while again, but I think it comes together at the right time. And even though I'm very high on Boston this year, I just feel something when it comes down to the matchups between those two teams in a 7-game series, which I think would go 7. I'm doing it. I'm taking Toronto in 7 in the preseason. Here we are. Raptors go to the NBA Finals. I'd like to reward, in my own mind, big, bold plays. So that's a big, bold prediction.
I am with rewarding big, bold plays. I'm also with rewarding executives, front offices that rebuild on the fly and don't play shitty. I'm totally comfortable with bottoming out on purpose and being terrible, but there is something to doing it in a manner where you completely retool, figure it out on the fly, and then just kind of go about your business and keep winning games. It seemed like they were going to have to do it after trading Rudy Gay, and they catch lightning in a bottle with Kyle Lowry and end up continuing to win all of these games over the last 5 years. And now they have to do it again this year by making this big play for Kawhi Leonard. And it's just very cool. It's very interesting, and I'm excited to see how it goes.
Right. And listen, a lot of this is gut, because if you're breaking it down, I think it's hard to argue that the Celtics aren't the best team in the Eastern Conference. But Kawhi's the dude in the playoffs, man. That's just the cut and dry of it. And Yeah, I don't know. I like Nick Nurse. So here we are. I think the Toronto Raptors get off the schneid. I've seen, in part of some of these, I of course looked up to see what other people were predicting going into the season, and a lot of people have the Raptors making the Eastern Conference Finals as if that's, this grand accomplishment, and I guess for that franchise it is. I'm willing to take it a step further, though I'm not necessarily thrilled about it because I'm pretty sure Southwest doesn't go there, and I like my status on Southwest. Now, we were all like, listen, let's be real here. The entire Warriors traveling media contingent, we weren't necessarily rooting one way or another because Toronto is a wonderful city to visit in June. Like, you can't really do much better than that. Yeah. But we know the Cleveland and Oakland schedule on Southwest Airlines pretty well by now, and Boston's a little trickier, and the hotels were going to be tougher, and so. But we don't fly Air Canada, so we weren't all too thrilled with that notion. So maybe there was a little bit of celebration when that came out. I know I'm the worst.
Just in the weeds on hashtag media inside baseball. That's what everyone wants to hear.
No, this is the glamour of our lives. Don't even start me about Marriott codes, baby.
Mine is Oklahoma City is your Western Conference finalist with the Golden State Warriors. The reason that I think...
How do you feel about this considering the most recent news?
In regard to Russ or what?
With Robertson.
I mean, it isn't great. I'm pretty frustrated. The fact that, he'll be up 2 months, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not...
That's one of those things, that can stick around.
Yeah, as long as I think the big key for them is getting Russ healthy. Hopefully by the end of December? Yeah.
Get Christmas time, then make a run.
Yeah, then make a run. He's supposed to be back way before then also.
Totally.
I will also note that I would much rather have Robertson for the second half of the year than Robertson for the first half of the year, like they did last year. So as long as he gets back, I'm still feeling pretty okay about it.
Yeah. All that needs to happen is for this team to be full bore heading into the postseason.
Yes. I like the addition of Nerlens Noel to potentially give some, backing to Steven Adams, hopefully allow their second unit to continue play athletically, to continue to just kind of get more defensive production than what they saw last year. I think you're going to see a better season from Patrick Patterson, who was essentially a disaster last season.
Just strange. I like Patrick Patterson.
It was very strange. It was unexpected in every way. I think you're going to get a better season from him. Dennis Schroeder gives them something off the bench that is better than what they had. It's not a great contract. It's not a great deal, but he gives them something. And, I like Jeremy Grant. I like a lot of the guys they have. They're a more athletic team. They're a team that doesn't necessarily have as many holes defensively as what they had last year. And... if Robertson gets healthy and everything rolls, I think they could easily have the best defense in the NBA this year.
That's where I was going with this. I mean, a lot of people are high on Utah because of the defense. Obviously, that's where it starts for the Jazz. Do you think that the Thunder, I guess, mano a mano, when both of these teams are full strength, do you think that the Thunder have a better defense than the Jazz?
Yeah, wow.
I mean, I think that those two teams are kind of in a class of their own.
And Boston. I think it's those three.
Yeah. Okay. Just to be amenable. Yeah.
Man, I think I would take Oklahoma City's.
Just because of the wing aspects.
Because of the wing defense and the athleticism.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Rudy Gobert is certainly the best defender on each team. If you combine the two teams, he's certainly the most impactful defender.
But he can also be schemed.
A little bit. You can play him pick and rolls a little bit, yeah. I mean, you could say the same about Steven Adams. He's a little bit more mobile than Gobert, but it's kind of the same
Adams
deal.
Is also the best, so you're just not going to get a foul.
Yeah, and then you could say I
agree.
They get an extra season from Jay Crowder. They get Dante, or they get a season of Jay being under Quinn Snyder's regime and getting a little bit more comfortable. They get full season of Dante Exum, who's been very good defensively in the past for them. Royce O'Neal gets more adjusted to the NBA level. Like Derek Favors, obviously, has been a very good defender over the course of the last couple years as well. So I would totally understand why you would say Utah is a better defensive team.
That's neither of these are bold proclamations in terms of separating it. I think that's an interesting storyline to keep an eye on throughout the year. Like, which defense is better?
I trust Utah's offense more than I trust Oklahoma City's, despite the fact that Oklahoma City has
way more firepower.
2 of the 3 best offensive players by far. Like, depending on what you think of Donovan.
Right. No, I mean, it's Russ
and then there's like a
Mitchell
big gap.
Yeah. Utah manufactures points, and Oklahoma City they sort of happen through athleticism a lot of times. So
right, and just like general.
I get that.
Creation.
I get that. That would be actually kind of a cool rivalry if it really got going this year. Oklahoma City and Utah, kind of this small market chip on our shoulder bullshit.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
But like those two teams, I mean, I'm going to try to watch every single time they play, man. That's going to be fun as hell. They're kind of dichotomous sides of the same coin.
Give me your last bold prediction.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a little bit off the radar, honestly. So Trae Young is an Atlanta Hawk, and he was obviously the belle of the ball last year in so many regards. Got everybody excited, and I think he's going to have a really. I think he'll have a rock solid NBA career. I'm not down on Trae Young at all, but I really, really, really like what I've seen out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Clippers, and I think he's going to have. Did I? Well, yeah. This is we're so far in. I got flustered talking about airline points.
Hashtag professional podcast.
Gilgeous-Alexander has been...
Still didn't nail it.
Damn it. What? Just say it. Say it out loud, son of a bitch.
Gilgeous-Alexander.
Gilgeous. God damn it. See, I wrote it wrong. Autocorrect. SGA is... he's looked really good. Shai. We're not cutting any of this, are we?
No, we're not.
He's looked really good in the preseason, and I think that I'm a little bit surprised by that. We've talked a bunch about how... Maybe not a bunch, but we've talked about how the Clippers are kind of indistinguishable 1 through 12. Like, you can kind of just stick anyone in the starting lineup. But it seems to me, just watching, and I'll be honest, I haven't done the deep dive yet into Clippers preseason, but like it seems like he's going to have a bigger role than a lot of people would have expected from him. And certainly there's not that much impediment to him playing 35, 40 minutes a night for this Clippers team. I don't think he will, but he could. And he's looked really clean. And, Trae Young is going to have a lot of ups, and I think he's going to have a lot of downs. And I think when it's all said and done, the steady play of Shai is going to trump the up and down roller coaster ride that is the Trae Young experience. And a little bit of that might have to do with the fact that the Hawks aren't necessarily just handing Young the keys. They brought in Jeremy Lin, Jeremy Lin needs the ball and playing time. Whereas I think that the path is just a lot cleaner for SGA. I would place a speculative bet on him to win Rookie of the Year. I don't think it's going to happen. I certainly didn't say that he is my Rookie of the Year favorite or anything, but you talked about top 5 earlier. This is my top 5 guy, and when it's all said and done, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be totally shocked if he was in the top 2 or 3 of voting.
Yeah, I don't think that's all that crazy.
Really? Then we're the only 2.
In terms of your initial bold prediction that Shai ends up being more effective than Trae Young, I think that's not all that wild. No,
but I mean, who else is breaking it down like this, Sam? I mean, who else is on this bandwagon?
It's a good question. I think we might have Mike Schmitz with us.
Oh, that's good company. I feel great about that. And ultimately, there's going to be an issue here of Young's going to get eyeballs to a certain degree, even though he plays for a bad team, because he has name recognition. And the Clippers are just totally forgettable, all things considered. And his game isn't flashy. But I think for the connoisseur of the NBA game, there's going to be a lot to enjoy.
All right. My last one is also a rookie style prediction. And why not? Because this podcast so often focuses on the younger players in the NBA.
Love it.
DeAndre Ayton averages 19 points and 10 rebounds.
Okay.
And finishes second in Rookie of the Year.
Okay. So you're on the Doncic.
Yes. Bandwagon? I think Luka averages 16, 5, and 5 as a rookie.
That's cool.
DeAndre, if he was to do that, to go 19 and 10 as a rookie.
That's big.
Only one rookie has done that since 2000. That is Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin obviously had the year where he sat out as well. He was a true rookie, no question, but there is something to sitting out and getting a small advantage.
Totally.
So that's where I'm at on DeAndre Ayton. He has looked unstoppable in the preseason. Igor Kokoshkov is going to get him.
He's good coaching.
So many easy baskets. He's shooting 78.3% from the foul line. He's getting to the foul line a ton. 59% from the field. 20.5 points per game and 11.5 rebounds per game so far for DeAndre Ayton. He also looks a little bit better defensively than what we've seen so far. So I think DeAndre is just an absolute superstar. It's the reason I had him at number 1 on my draft board. He is a total stud, and I have no reason to really doubt him.
I saw him for the first time in person last night.
Oh, God.
The Suns play the Warriors. Holy shit.
You people don't understand how large he is until you see him in person. You would see him with college players last year.
Yeah.
And he would tower over them. I said in the pre-draft process that I thought he was the biggest athletic freak to enter the NBA since LeBron. You just see him and he is unlike anyone else that you see.
I saw him standing next to Tyson Chandler, who is really big himself. Isn't Chandler he's 7'1".
7'1".
I mean, he's oh my God, Ayton is. And if Ayton ever fills out, holy shit.
He
was also
out.
really
DeAndre's filled out.
But he still looks like a kid in some senses. I mean, it's not as if he's going to get pushed around by anybody, but oh my goodness, he is so fluid. You're absolutely. I cannot disagree with you on that best athlete since LeBron take, which that should be something that's easily ping oh, that's ridiculous. But I saw him. Yep, he's smooth. He's so damn smooth. He has no business being that smooth and being that big.
Yeah, he is very different than anything that I can remember seeing.
And he had a turnaround jumper on the baseline.
Yep.
And I almost got up and left because I'm well, it's over. As soon as he figures
he can shoot. He's insane. The
Suns are going to be really well coached this year. I mean, that was clear. They played the Warriors didn't give a shit over a preseason game as one would expect, and the Suns kind of came out with something to prove. And it's going to be a challenge for them on the defensive end, the fact that they don't necessarily have a NBA caliber starting point guard and all that stuff. But he's going to have spacing around him. He is certainly athletic enough to play the modern five. Jesus, he is the modern five. Yeah. If his confidence stays up, and it should, as you mentioned, he's going to get easy buckets this year.
He's a confident kid too. I would never really worry about him losing the grain or anything.
I think it's pretty bold saying that he's going to finish in second.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Luka's
awesome. I'm not disagreeing with you.
He's just very ready. And Dallas is going to be better.
Great rookie class.
This is a great rookie class. This is something that I talked about through the draft process as well. Very, very strong rookie class. Bunch of guys that I think are going to be impact players immediately. You can look down at Miles Bridges. You can look down at DeAndre Ayton and Luka Doncic, and there are just so many different players that you can assume are going to play immediately. You add Harry Giles to that mix as well. It's going to be a great class. I'm excited.
It's going to be a good season. I think there's going to be a lot of weird crap that happens. I think this Jimmy Butler thing was a bit of a forewarning.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the stupid that happens in this basketball season. Because the NBA, if it is one thing, it gets real dumb.
And this year it seems like they already have the stupid in the hyper accelerator. I mean, it's gonna be a special year for sure. And maybe, and again, it's something that we have to keep an eye on. We talk about the inevitability of the Warriors and the Rockets meeting probably in the Western Conference Finals, this or that. Even though you don't think that happens, and I tend to agree with you. This could be the last year for the Warriors as well. I mean, you think about the trends of the league. If you haven't caught up to at least the style that the Warriors sort of ushered in 2015, even though it was clearly already heading that way, they brought it to the forefront. If you haven't matched that style and that modern game yet, you're just trying not to. You're being deliberately obtuse. and we can name those teams. But coaching is going to be exceptional. The game is going to be so aesthetically pleasing pretty much across the board. It's going to take something. I think that even though the Warriors are still the best team in the NBA, that they're going to get pushed a little bit more this year than maybe they expected. And there's a lot of challengers to the throne, and all it takes is a little bit of weird, and everything can get overturned.
Yeah, and there's a really nice mix right now of elite level veteran talent, as well as very, very good young talent. You look at guys that, for instance, I talked about, like Ben Simmons and DeAndre Ayton and Donovan Mitchell, and then you throw in LeBron and Kevin Durant, both of whom, in my opinion, are 10 of the best players to ever play basketball. You can make the case for Stephen Curry in that mix as well. This is just a great time to be a basketball fan, and we shouldn't take it for granted. I think it really is.
Absolutely,
basketball is just the best.
And this and it's sure shit entertaining, man. What a reality show this thing is. Yeah.
Dieter, tell the people where they can find your work.
Oh, man. Where can't you? No. The San Jose Mercury News. Follow me on Twitter at @DKurtenbach, KURTENBACH.
The name is too long, man. We got to change it.
I've been trying to get at Dieter for a really long time. And it's like some pastor in Tampa who I guess blocked me recently. I wasn't even following him. I think I sent him a DM like, "Hey, I would love to buy the name off you." And I think he hit me back with a block. So yeah, I would love to get something shorter.
Does he ever tweet? Do we have to start a write-in campaign?
Oh man, you know what? Don't do that to the guy. He doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that. Let's check in on old Dieter here and see how he's doing. Maybe next episode I'll release the hounds on him.
We're also going to have, hopefully, a nice little project for the fans as well. We can't announce it yet because it's
a concept.
Yeah, it's more of a concept, and it would be a bit of a disservice, I think, to announce it now because we're still not 100% sure that we can do it.
Yeah, but it's an idea, and Lord knows none of our ideas are very straightforward.
Yes. So we're trying to come up with something for the fans here going forward, listeners, etc., everything. We really appreciate you guys for listening. Go to theathletic.com/game theory. You'll get 30% off of that subscription, and it'll help keep me employed. That's the most important part of all of this because it allows me to continue to do the podcast. They are just the best over there, and they do great work. You'll get a great subscription to a terrific service as well. It's not like other websites where you only have one local market. You get a ton of local markets, and it really is valuable. So until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.